On Sundays. Your day off, he would say, even though I never really asked for one. He was humming again, some old tune he always hummed but never remembered the name of. I stood by the doorway and watched him flip an omelet with too much confidence and too little skill. I teased him. You know you burn it almost every week. He turned and smiled. And yet you still eat it with so much love. I laughed. Love. More like resignation. We both knew I secretly loved his badly made omelets. It was the only dish he insisted on cooking, even though he messed it up every single time. But that morning, something felt different. Not bad, just different. There was a calmness in him, a softness, as if he was soaking in every detail around him. The sunlight on the counter, the sound of the kettle, the movement of my hands as I set the table. At one point he stopped cooking, came over, and hugged me from behind. Everything all right? I asked. He nodded. I just love you. That's all. I didn't think much of it then. How could I have known it would be the last morning, the last breakfast, the last laugh, the last hug? People say the heart somehow senses when the end is near, but mine didn't. Or maybe it refused to. Later that day, he said he was going to the market. He kissed my forehead, something he hadn't done in a long time, and said, "Be safe. I'll be back in an hour." But he never came back. Sometimes I replay that hour in my mind. I think about the clock ticking, the kettle whistling, the laundry machine humming, the way I hummed along to his tune without realizing it. I didn't know that the world was changing while I folded clothes. I didn't know that a phone call was coming that would carve a permanent line through my life. A line of before and after. When I received the call, I remember sitting down on the kitchen floor. Not crying, not screaming, just sitting. Because sometimes grief is too heavy to react to. Before we begin, if you enjoy stories that touch the heart and remind us of life's quiet miracles, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. It truly helps our little storytelling family grow. My husband used to say that a home is not made of walls, but of moments. Maybe that is why, even after a year since his passing, every corner of this house still feels alive with him. Sometimes I think the house remembers him better than I do. It remembers his laugh, low and warm, like a soft wave touching the shore. It remembers the way he walked, slow and steady, each step filled with purpose. It remembers the soft humming he did every morning while boiling tea. And even though he's gone, the house still echoes those memories back to me when I least expect it. But the truth is, I don't talk to people much anymore. Not because I don't have anyone. I do. My sister calls me often. My neighbor checks in. My niece visits. But the words inside me feel heavy now. Too heavy to carry into conversations with the living. So I talk to him instead. Or to his photograph, to be exact. It sits on the small table near my bed. His favorite picture, the one taken on our anniversary. The evening light had been soft, warm golden. He had worn a light blue shirt, sleeves rolled up, hair slightly messy because I had run my hand through it just before the picture was taken. He was laughing, an unplanned, genuine laugh. That's how I want to remember him. Some nights, I reach out and touch the frame softly, as if it were his cheek. Some mornings I whisper good morning, because silence feels colder. And I know it sounds strange, maybe even sad, but talking to his photograph feels easier than talking to anyone else. The photograph doesn't interrupt. The photograph doesn't say, "You should move on." The photograph doesn't look uncomfortable when I cry. It just waits, listens, and holds whatever I pour into it. But things weren't always like this. Before the grief, before the silence, before the lonely conversations with his picture, there was life. Beautiful, ordinary, imperfect life. The last morning I saw him alive, it was a Sunday. I remember because he always insisted on making breakfast. The first night without him. Everyone thinks the funeral is the hardest part. It isn't. The hardest part is the night after. When everyone goes home. When the house grows quiet again. When you open the wardrobe and his clothes still smell like him. I slept with the photograph that night. I didn't mean to. I just held it while sitting on the bed. And at some point I fell asleep, my tears drying on the glass surface. When I woke up, the sun was rising and the picture was still in my hand. That is when the habit began. A habit that would become routine. And then comfort. And then a lifeline. The photograph that listens. Talking to a photograph started as a way to survive the silence. But over time, it grew into something deeper. Every night, I tell him things I can't tell anyone else. Like how the neighbors pity me. Or how I still cook for two sometimes. Or how I can't bring myself to delete his number from my phone. Or how I still check the door at 7 p.m., the time he usually returned home. Even though I know nobody will walk in. And sometimes, I apologize to the photograph. I'm sorry for being angry. I'm sorry for not being strong. I'm sorry for still needing you. I'm sorry for not moving on. It doesn't respond, of course. But sometimes when the light hits it just right, his eyes seem softer, almost comforting. Maybe it's just my heart playing tricks on me. Or maybe grief teaches the heart to find comfort wherever it can. A strange discovery. One evening, 6 months after his death, I was cleaning the drawers in our room. Something I should have done long ago but never had the courage to. His things were still there. His favorite pens. Old receipts. A small notebook where he wrote reminders in messy handwriting. A tie I always said didn't suit him. And beneath a stack of papers, wrapped in a cloth, I found something that made my hands tremble. A letter. With my name on it. Written in his handwriting. My heart pounded so loudly I could barely hear my own breath. I sat on the bed, the letter in my lap, unable to open it. Was it something he wrote long before he died? Was it something recent? Did he know something was coming? Did he hide it intentionally? Was it meant for later? Or was it meant for now? I stared at the envelope as if it were alive. Part of me wanted to tear it open immediately. Another part wanted to lock it away forever. Because what if the words inside broke me more than the silence did? Eventually, I placed it gently in the drawer and closed it. I didn't open it that night. Or the next night. Or the one after. I kept talking to his photograph, pretending the letter didn't exist, even though it sat in my mind like a burning secret. Until something happened. Something that forced me to return to the letter. Trembling all over again. That moment would become the beginning of everything that changed. For 3 days, the letter stayed in the drawer. I would open the drawer, look at it, close it again. My hands always trembled a little, as if some part of me already knew that my life would shift the moment I opened it. Grief is a strange thing. It makes you both desperate for answers and terrified of them. But the letter wasn't going anywhere. It simply waited. Quiet, patient, much like the photograph on my bedside table. During those 3 days, I talked to the photo more than usual. Maybe because I was avoiding the letter. Maybe because the letter made him feel too close, too real, too alive. One night I whispered, "Did you know something? Is that why you wrote it?" The photograph, as always, stayed silent. But the silence felt heavier now, as if filled with unsaid things. When the silence was broken, on the 4th day, someone knocked on my door. It was not a soft, polite knock. It was hurried, almost urgent. When I opened the door, I found my neighbor, Mrs. Qureshi, breathless and worried. "Are you all right?" she asked. I frowned. "Why wouldn't I be? You didn't open the curtains for 3 days. I thought you were unwell." I blinked. I hadn't realized. Time had blurred again, becoming one long, dull stretch of hours where daylight meant nothing. She stepped inside without waiting for permission. She always did that. She was almost like family. Her eyes scanned the living room, then me. "Have you eaten?" I shook my head. She sighed, disappeared into the kitchen, and returned with a bowl of soup she had brought from home. While I ate, she looked at me with the kind of worry that people try hard to hide. "Look," she said gently. I know you miss him. We all do. But you need to join the world again, even a little. I wanted to say, the only world I know has been gone for a year. But instead, I forced a small smile. I'm trying. She left after making me promise to come to the community center that weekend. I agreed, even though I had no intention of going. But her visit did something unexpected. It pushed me back into the present, if only for a moment. And in that moment, I found the courage I had been avoiding. That night, I opened the drawer. The envelope that shook my hands. The moment I touched the letter, my breath caught. His handwriting. His name written on the top corner. The same pen stroke he always made on the Y in my name. Why now? I whispered to the photograph on my bedside. Why didn't you give it to me earlier? Why did you hide it? But of course, the photograph said nothing. I sat down on the bed, the letter resting on my knees. My fingers hesitated at the seal. Opening it felt like tearing open a wound that had only just begun to scar. After minutes of shaking, I finally slipped my finger under the flap and opened it. The paper inside was neatly folded. He had always been neat, always precise. Even his handwriting had a quiet patience to it. I unfolded it, and my heart almost stopped. His words alive again. My love, if you're reading this, it means I couldn't say these words in person. I closed my eyes, breath collapsing. His voice filled my mind instantly. That gentle tone. That steady calm. I kept reading. I don't know what happened. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe I'm just being dramatic. But for a few weeks now I've felt off. Like my heart is tired, or my breath is shorter, or my steps are slower. Maybe it's just stress. Maybe it's age. Or maybe it's something more. I didn't want to worry you, not until I knew for sure. My lips trembled. He had known something. A part of him had sensed a shadow approaching. I swallowed hard and read on. If something happens to me, I need you to know this. You were the best thing that ever happened in my life. You gave me peace when my world was loud. You gave me joy when my days were dull. You gave me a home when all I had before was a house. The tears fell before I even realized I was crying. I clutched the letter closer. His handwriting blurred under the tears, but I didn't stop. I know you. You will shut yourself away. You will talk less, eat less, move less. You will let the world shrink down to silence. But please, my love, don't let grief swallow you. Don't try to live inside memories so much that you forget to make new ones. Don't talk to my photograph more than you talk to people. My heart stopped at that line. The exact thing I had been doing every single day. A sound escaped me, half sob, half laugh. It felt like he had been watching me, even after leaving this world. I read the rest with trembling hands. You were my whole world. But I never wanted to become your cage. If I am gone alive, even if it hurts, even if it takes years, live. And if you ever feel lost, talk to me. I'll be around, in the sunlight, in the wind, in the warmth of your tea, in the quiet moments you think are empty. I love you, more than you will ever know. Your husband. When I finished reading, I didn't cry out loud. I didn't break. I didn't scream. I just sat there, holding the letter, feeling as if the world had shifted under my feet. The photograph on the table looked back at me, gentle, warm, eternal. And for the first time, I didn't talk to it. I didn't need to. He had spoken first. The day everything changed. The next morning, I woke up with a strange heaviness in my chest. Not pain, just weight. A weight made of love and grief and the echo of his words. Don't let grief swallow you. I got out of bed earlier than usual. Opened the curtains. Swept the floor. Made tea. All small things, but they felt like climbing mountains. I placed his letter gently beside the photograph. Thank you, I whispered, though I wasn't sure which one I was thanking. The memory, the man, or the universe. Later that day, I decided to step outside. Just for a moment. Just to breathe. I walked to the market. The The same one he had gone to on that last day. Every corner carried a memory. The fruit stall where he always argued about mango prices. The bakery where he insisted on buying pastries we didn't need. The flower shop he pretended to casually walk past. Even though he bought me flowers every Friday, people recognized me. They greeted me softly, gently. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't shrink away. Still, something felt off. There was a sense of being watched. Not by danger, not by strangers, but by something familiar. Something warm. I shook it off as imagination. But when I came home, the feeling grew stronger. Especially when I opened the door and saw something sitting on the floor inside. A small white envelope. With no name. No stamp. No handwriting. Just placed there, waiting. For me. My heart skipped a beat. Who delivered it? Why? And how did they enter my locked house? The envelope looked new, untouched, deliberately placed. I stared at it, my breath unsteady. Part of me wanted to pick it up immediately. Another part whispered, what if this changes everything? Just like the last letter did. And maybe it would. The white envelope sat on the living room floor like a quiet question waiting to be answered. No name. No address. No handwriting. Just stillness. For several minutes, I didn't move. I simply stood there at the doorway, staring at it. My heartbeat was too loud, too fast. The house felt too quiet, too watchful. After the letter from my husband, anything unexpected felt heavier, sharper, more meaningful than it should. I closed the door gently and walked toward it, each step slow, deliberate. My mind raced with possibilities. Maybe it was from a neighbor. Maybe someone slipped it under the door. But then, how did it end up in the middle of the room? I knelt down, picked it up, and turned it over. No markings. Not even a seal. Just a simple, unassuming envelope that somehow felt dangerous and important at the same time. I whispered into the silent room. What is this? But the walls, the air, even his photograph, none of them answered. A message without a name. I sat on the couch and carefully tore the envelope open. Inside was a single folded paper. No greeting. No signature. Just one sentence. You are not alone. My entire body tensed. Not a kind, comforting phrase. Not a friendly note. No. It felt deliberate. Purposeful. Almost like a warning. I looked around the room instinctively, as if someone might be hiding in the corners. The window curtains fluttered slightly, stirred by a breeze I didn't feel. You are not alone. What did it mean? Was someone watching me? Following me? Checking on me? Had they seen me talking to the photograph? Crying? Reading his letter? My hands grew cold. For a moment, fear swallowed me. That chilling, creeping kind of fear that makes your skin tighten and your breath shallow. But then another thought surfaced, one even more unsettling. What if? What if it wasn't a threat? What if it was a message related to him? To my husband? To the letter he left behind? The timing was too strange. Too close. Too connected. My heart thudded against my ribs. Could grief make someone imagine connections that didn't exist? Probably. But something about this felt real. Too real. Telling the photograph. I carried the note to the bedroom and placed it next to his picture frame. I don't understand, I whispered. If you're trying to tell me something, why like this? His smiling face stared back at me, gentle as ever, untouched by the storm inside me. You said to live. I continued, my voice cracking. You said to talk to you when I feel lost. But this isn't talking. This is confusing. I pressed my fingers against the frame. The glass was cool, grounding. For a moment, I imagined he was listening. That his soul lingered quietly in the room. That he was somehow close enough to hear my fear. But the air stayed still, seeking answers. For hours, the sentence replayed in my mind. You are not alone. By evening, the anxiety was unbearable. I needed to talk to someone, not the photograph, Not the walls, someone living. I called my sister. Can you come over? I asked. She didn't hesitate. I'll be there in 20 minutes. While waiting, I paced around the house, checking the windows, the locks, the rooms. Everything was in place. Nothing strange. No signs of intrusion. But the envelope remained an unanswered question. When my sister arrived, she hugged me immediately. You sounded shaken, she said. I nodded. I found something. I handed her the envelope and the short message. She read it twice, eyebrows furrowing. Did someone slip it under the door? She asked. That's the thing, I whispered. It wasn't near the door. It was in the center of the living room. She frowned, sat down next to me. Maybe it slid? Maybe the wind. There was no wind, I murmured. A heavy silence fell between us. Then she placed a gentle hand on my knee. Look, grief can make every little thing feel bigger. Maybe someone just wanted to comfort you, but didn't know what to say. But who? I asked. Who would break into my house to say that? Her silence told me she didn't have an answer. She stayed with me for dinner, talked about normal things, tried to distract me. But even she kept glancing at the envelope from time to time. Before leaving, she hugged me again. Lock the doors. Don't overthink it. Call me if anything else happens. I nodded. But after she left, the house felt heavier than before. Every sound felt sharper. Every shadow more intrusive. That night, I didn't talk to the photograph. I was too afraid that maybe someone else was listening too. The night of the knock. Around midnight, just as I was drifting into an uneasy sleep, there was a knock on my door. A single, slow knock. Not loud, not urgent, but unmistakable. My heart lurched. I sat up, listening. For a moment, the entire house paused. Air, silence, everything holding its breath. Then the knock came again. 2 slow taps. I whispered, "Please no." I grabbed my phone, ready to call my sister. But something stopped me. The knock was too familiar. Not in sound, but in rhythm. It was the way he used to knock. My husband. He always knocked twice, slow, playful, even when he had keys. He said it was his signal. So I'd always know it was him. But this was impossible. Absolutely impossible. My chest tightened painfully. I slipped off the bed and walked toward the door, each step trembling. I didn't open it, God no, but I pressed my ear against it. Silence. Nothing. Just emptiness. Then softly, so softly I almost thought I imagined it, came a third knock. Gentle. Familiar. Exactly like his. My breath broke. No, I whispered, tears filling my eyes. No, no, no. I backed away from the door, shaking all over. Then my phone buzzed in my hand. A message from an unknown number. My fingers trembled as I opened the text. It was only 2 words. Open it. My knees nearly gave out. The same unknown sender? The same person, or thing, that left the first envelope? Fear clawed its way up my spine, cold and unrelenting. I ran back to the bedroom, shut the door and locked it. I sat against the wall, clutching my phone, staring at the door as if something might walk through it. Minutes passed. Maybe hours. I couldn't tell. But then something happened that terrified me more than the knocks, more than the message. The photograph on my bedside table fell forward, face down, even though no wind was blowing. I stared at it, breath frozen. Slowly, I crawled toward it and lifted it. The glass was intact. His face still smiled gently, but there was something new. A tiny folded piece of paper stuck behind the frame, one I had never seen before. My heart dropped. Hands trembling violently, I pulled the paper out, unfolded it, and read the only line written there. Do not open the door. The small note trembled between my fingers. Do not open the door. I stared at the sentence, unable to breathe properly. It felt like my husband's handwriting. Not perfectly, Not clearly, but the curves, the gentle slant, the way he looped his T. My vision blurred with tears. It couldn't be him. It couldn't be. He was gone. Buried. At peace. And yet, this message was tucked behind his photograph, a place only he ever touched. He used to clean the frame every Sunday morning, complaining that my fingers left too many prints for one human. No one else knew this habit. No one else touched that frame. So how did this message get here? I whispered into the dim room. What are you trying to tell me? The photograph, steady under the soft lamp light, looked unchanged, yet suddenly alive with mystery. My heartbeat thudded loudly. Somewhere outside, a dog barked. Then silence again. I pulled my knees to my chest and sat on the floor, the note lying beside me. I didn't sleep that night. Every sound felt amplified. The ticking clock, the distant traffic, my own breath. And always, my eyes kept drifting back to the note. Do not open the door. A warning. A plea. A message. From whom? Or from what? Morning comes with questions. By sunrise, I was exhausted, but my mind was sharp with fear and curiosity. The knocks. The unknown message. Open it. Now this. Do not open the door. Two opposite instructions. Two different intentions. Someone wanted me to open the door. Something else wanted me to stay safe. Which one should I trust? I reached for my husband's photograph again. Pressing my forehead to the glass, I whispered, "Is it you? Are you trying to protect me? Please tell me something." My tears left small circular marks on the glass. For a moment, it felt like he was listening. Then the doorbell rang. Not a soft knock, but the loud, clear ring of the doorbell. I froze instantly. It was 6:20 a.m. Who would come this early? My pulse quickened. My throat felt dry. Slowly, I walked toward the living room. Each step made the floor creak like a warning. The bell rang again. I stood behind the door, too scared to even ask, "Who is it?" Then a voice came. Calm. Familiar. "Hello? Are you awake?" Mrs. Qureshi. Relief flooded me, weak but comforting. "I brought breakfast," she called out. I was worried after last night's message. My stomach dropped. What message? I unlocked the door cautiously. When I opened it, she smiled, holding a small food container. But then her face shifted. She frowned. "You look pale. Did something else happen?" I stepped aside and let her in. "Mrs. Qureshi, what message are you talking about?" She blinked, surprised. "The one you sent me last night. At 12:15. I felt my blood run cold. I didn't send any message. She pulled out her phone and showed me the screen. The message read, "Don't let me sleep. I'm scared." Sent from my number. A tremor went through me. No. Iwisparat. I didn't write that. I didn't even touch my phone except when I got that message from the unknown number. She grabbed my shoulders gently. "Are you sure you're okay? Maybe you were half asleep?" "No. Insista. Someone else is sending messages. Someone is entering the house. Someone left a note behind his photograph." Her face softened with worry, but her eyes filled with something else, fear. "Show me," she said. I led her to my room. The photograph stood exactly where I had left it. The small note beside it. When she read the message, "Do not open the door," a fine shiver passed through her. This doesn't feel like a prank," she said quietly. I shook my head. "I think someone was here yesterday. Inside the house." She rubbed her arms as if cold. We both stood in silence for a long time. Finally, she said, "Maybe we should call the police." But something inside me resisted the idea. Not because of fear of the police, but because everything happening felt personal. Not ordinary. Not random. No police officer could explain letters and knocks that felt like echoes from the past. No officer could explain how a note appeared behind his photograph. "I need to understand this," I whispered. I need to know why it's happening. Mrs. Qureshi studied me carefully, then sighed. If anything else happens, anything, you call me. Promise. I promise. She left reluctantly, glancing back twice before leaving the gate. When the door clicked shut, silence returned. But now it felt heavier, thicker, like the air was waiting for my next move. The day of realization. I decided to clean the house, hoping to distract myself. Dusting shelves, straightening cushions, wiping windows. And then when I reached his old desk, untouched for months, I found something that made my breath hitch. His diary. He kept one secretly. I didn't know until after his death, when I found a few pages tucked inside a file. This diary had a dark blue cover. I hesitated, but something inside me whispered, "Open it." So I did. Most pages were blank, but some had short notes, random thoughts, small reminders, feelings he never voiced. But on the second last page, a date caught my eye. 2 weeks before his death. The entry was short. So short it felt unfinished. Breathless again today. Something is wrong. If anything happens, I hope she doesn't blame herself. I need to talk to her soon. My chest tightened. He did know something. He did feel something. I sat down hard, the diary slipping slightly from my hands. What if all this, the knocks, the messages, the notes, were connected to something he couldn't finish? Something he wanted to tell me but never got the chance to? I looked at the photograph again. For a moment, just a moment, I felt something like a soft warmth pass through the room. A whisper of his presence. A flicker of the familiar. I closed my eyes and let the feeling wash over me. I'm listening, he whispered. If there's something you're trying to tell me, I'm listening. The silence that followed was strangely comforting. Not empty, not lonely, almost purposeful. The third message. That night, I sat by the window, holding his diary. The streets outside were quiet. A soft breeze moved the curtains. I heard nothing unusual. No knocks. No whispers. Just calm. Then my phone buzzed. My heart dropped when I saw the same unknown number. I opened the message slowly, breath trapped in my throat. It said, "Check the place where he kept what mattered most." My hands shook violently. His diary? His clothes? His old box of memories? Or the market? The very place he went before he died. As fear mixed with curiosity, I whispered to his photograph, "What are you trying to show me?" The house stayed silent, but something in my heart answered. Tomorrow, go to the market. The truth is waiting there. The morning after I opened Daniel's last letter, everything felt different. Not louder, not brighter, just softer. For the first time in months, I woke up without that crushing weight on my chest. The ache was still there, of course it was, but it didn't feel like it was trying to swallow me whole. It felt quieter, like grief was finally learning to sit at the edge of the room instead of standing on my chest. I reached for his photograph again. That same photo I had talked to for months. But this time, instead of whispering a question or a fear or an apology, I whispered a promise. I'll try, Daniel. I'll try to live again. For you. With you. It wasn't loud. It wasn't brave. But it was real. Herb learning to live in small ways. The days that followed weren't suddenly perfect. Healing wasn't a straight line. Some mornings I woke up feeling strong. Others, I couldn't even look at the empty side of the bed. But I kept trying. A little each day. I opened the windows more often. I cooked meals he used to love. Sometimes they tasted good, sometimes they didn't. But I kept trying. I went for walks, slow ones, where I felt like he was walking beside me. I even started talking to people again, not just his photograph. Maya noticed first. "You're smiling more," she said one day, touching my arm gently. I didn't even realize I was. I replied. And it wasn't forced. Not anymore. Hibiscus the day I found his voice again. One afternoon, while clearing out the storage room, I found an old recorder in a dusty box. A small, cheap device Daniel kept when he was learning music years ago. I held it, unsure why my hands were shaking. My thumb brushed the buttons. Then, a click. A soft static. And suddenly his voice. Testing 1 2 3. Amelia, if you're listening to this, it means I finally figured out how this thing works. I froze. The room froze with me. His voice wasn't a memory. It wasn't fading. It wasn't imagined. It was right there, alive in the air, warm and familiar. He laughed in the recording, one of those soft, shy laughs he used to do when he was nervous. I don't know why you kept this, he said. But if you found it, hi. I love you. I sank onto the floor and pressed the recorder against my heart. I love you too, I whispered. It didn't break me. It didn't shatter me. It healed something I didn't know was bleeding. Now, I don't only talk to his photograph. Sometimes, I play that voice recording, letting him fill the room for a few seconds. Not to relive the past, but to remember that love never really leaves. Some behind small cloud the conversation I never expected. Weeks later, on an unusually warm evening, I sat by the window with his photograph in my lap. I'm still here, I told him, and I'm still trying. The wind shifted softly, brushing against my cheek. It felt like a hand. His hand. Maybe it was just the breeze. Maybe it was wishful thinking. But I smiled anyway. I'll live, I whispered. Not without you, but with all the love you left behind. His smile in the photograph seemed warmer that evening, almost alive. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel alone in the room. Seedling a new chapter, not an ending. I didn't move on. People love using that phrase. But you don't move on from someone who built a home in your heart. You move forward with them. Daniel became part of my strength, not my sorrow. I began volunteering at the community center. I met people who carried their own stories, their own losses. I listened to them the way I once wished someone would listen to me. And slowly, gently, my world expanded again. The pain stayed, but it became a quieter companion. The love stayed too, loud, steady, alive. Crescent moon, the final night of this story. One night, while placing Daniel's photograph on the bedside table, I paused. I talk to you less now, I whispered. But I think you'd want that. The room didn't answer. But I didn't feel that old emptiness. I felt warmth. A kind of peace. I'll always love you, I said softly. But I'm learning to breathe again. And somehow, it felt like he smiled. Not from the photograph. Not from the shadows. But from somewhere deeper. Somewhere inside me. Somewhere love never dies. I talk to his photograph less these days. Because somewhere along the way, I realized he never truly left.